How avoidants sabotage their own love. It's one of the most heartbreaking patterns to witness. Someone finally finding the love they've always wanted, yet slowly, quietly, destroying it with their own hands. Avoidants don't usually wake up and say, "I'm going to ruin this." In fact, they often begin relationships with genuine hope. They feel excitement, possibility, even vulnerability in those early days. But the moment love starts to feel real, when someone gets too close, sees too much, or stays too long, their nervous system sounds the alarm. And what happens next is rarely loud or obvious. It's subtle, it's quiet, it's sabotage. Avoidants sabotage their own love through unconscious emotional withdrawal. They stop answering texts as quickly. They stop sharing little things about their day. They go from being fully present to being a ghost in the room. And to the person loving them, it feels like rejection. But to the avoidant, it feels like survival. They're not pulling away because they don't care. They're pulling away because caring too much terrifies them. Underneath the avoidant's cool demeanor is a mind wired by old pain. Pain that taught them closeness equals danger. That intimacy leads to hurt. That vulnerability means loss of control. So even when love feels safe, their body doesn't believe it. Their defense systems kick in. Stay distant, stay independent. Don't rely on anyone. Don't let anyone rely on you. And this creates a painful paradox. The avoidant wants connection, but their trauma tells them to run from it. They crave love, but their fear of being emotionally engulfed makes them build walls instead. They tell themselves stories to justify the withdrawal. It's moving too fast. I just need space. Maybe they're not the one. But deep down, what they're really feeling is this terrifying pressure. The pressure of being known. And when someone gets too close to seeing their real self, their insecurities, their imperfections, their wounds, sabotage begins. One of the most common ways avoidants sabotage love is through hyperindependence. They start insisting they're fine on their own, that they don't need help, that they function better without emotional demands. But what they're really doing is protecting their inner world from being disrupted. Love, real love, requires co-regulation. Being open to letting someone in, letting someone soothe you, support you, see you. But avoidants were often taught that depending on others is weak or dangerous or disappointing. So they build their identities around being self-sufficient. The problem is, intimacy thrives on interdependence, not hyper-independence. And every time they retreat into, "I'm fine" when they're not, they create distance that the other person can't close. They sabotage emotional safety by refusing to need it. And when their partner eventually gives up trying, the avoidant quietly confirms their own belief that no one stays, that no one really understands, that closeness always fades. But they don't see that they're the one fading first. Avoidants also sabotage love through emotional testing, pushing their partner away to see if they'll come back. They might cancel plans last minute, disappear for a few days, or say something hurtful during an emotional moment. And if the partner comes back, forgives, reassures, it provides momentary relief. But it's not love they're testing, it's abandonment. The avoidant has a deep, unresolved fear that if someone sees their mess, they'll walk away. So they test it, over and over, not because they're cruel, but because they don't believe love can withstand their truth. And ironically, these tests create the very instability they fear. Because love doesn't survive in a battlefield. When someone is constantly forced to prove they'll stay, they eventually stop wanting to. And the avoidant once again gets to say, "See, I was right. Love doesn't last." But it's not love that's failing. It's the belief system that's sabotaging it before it has a chance to grow. Another unconscious sabotage pattern is idealization and devaluation. At the beginning of the relationship, avoidants often place their partner on a pedestal. Everything about them seems perfect, magical, exciting. But as intimacy deepens, the avoidant starts to look for flaws. And not just little quirks. They begin to find reasons to emotionally detach. They're too needy. They're not as exciting as I thought. I need someone more independent. This isn't about the partner changing. It's about the avoidant trying to create emotional distance. Because if they can convince themselves that the other person isn't right, then they can justify pulling away. But deep down, it's not about incompatibility. It's about fear. Fear that staying close will force them to confront their own vulnerability. Fear that if they fully invest, they could be hurt. So they subconsciously find reasons to devalue the connection, to avoid the deeper emotional intimacy they never learned to feel safe with. Avoidants also sabotage love by avoiding conflict and emotional depth. They might act easygoing, drama-free, chill, but what they're really doing is avoiding emotional accountability. They don't want to talk about feelings, address needs, or process misunderstandings. They withdraw when conflict arises. They shut down when their partner expresses hurt. And this avoidance of emotional repair slowly breaks the bond, because relationships need repair, not perfection. When issues are ignored instead of explored, resentment builds in silence. The partner begins to feel alone, unheard, emotionally invisible, and the avoidant feels increasingly disconnected, misunderstood, and pressured. All of this drives them further into their inner cave, where love can't reach them. And when the relationship eventually breaks, not from a dramatic fight, but from emotional starvation, the avoidant tells themselves, "See, I knew it wasn't going to work." But they never gave it a chance to breathe. They never let the intimacy deepen past their fear threshold. Perhaps the most tragic sabotage of all is waiting until it's safe to love and realizing it's too late. Avoidants often hold back their full heart until they feel completely secure. But safety in relationships comes from showing up first, not waiting for a guarantee. Love requires participation, not just presence. But by the time they feel ready to open up, to say what they really feel, to show their tenderness, to admit they pushed someone good away, the person who once waited may be gone, emotionally or physically, and that's when avoidants feel the grief they've been avoiding all along. Not just the loss of a partner, but the loss of the opportunity to be fully loved. The heartbreak of knowing someone saw them, stayed, and was willing. But they couldn't meet them there because their fear spoke louder than their heart. But here's the hope. These sabotage patterns are learned, which means they can be unlearned. Avoidants aren't doomed to loneliness. They're not incapable of love. They're deeply capable, but it requires awareness, healing, and courage. The courage to sit in the discomfort of closeness, to challenge the voice that says love will destroy them, to speak instead of shut down, to stay instead of run, to believe that someone can love them not despite their wounds, but through them. Avoidants sabotage their own love, not because they don't want it, but because they were never shown how to receive it without fear. But if they choose healing, if they choose truth over ego, vulnerability over control, they can rewrite the ending. Not with perfection, but with presence, with staying, with finally letting love be something they don't have to run from anymore.